Hi, my name is Girls Landing Gaming, and today we're going to be doing a pre-release guide for Magic the Gathering: The Hobbit. I'm super excited to share this with you as a Magic the Gathering ambassador for the Hobbit set. I'm super excited to share this with you. Thank you so much to Wizards of the Coast for that designation. Let's get right into it. First, we'll go over the draft archetypes, which are going to be important to know when you're doing a pre-release. While we are going to have 5 draft archetypes instead of 10, it doesn't exactly match up with the 5 armies. For this, we're going to have Dwarves, Elves, Humans, Wolves, and Goblins. Humans in blue-white are all about the new mechanic Recruit and drawing multiple cards per turn. Recruit means that you'll draw a card, discard a card, and if you discarded a non-land card this way, you get to make a 1/1 human creature token. Goblins are red and black, and they are all about amassing an army with the amass mechanic, so you're sacrificing things, making goblin tokens, and making that token bigger. Wolves are all about the returning ferocious mechanic, which cares about if you have a creature that's power 4 or greater. This will also include some other woodland beasties like bears, insects, spiders, etc. Dwarves, the point of the set! Dwarves are in red and white, and they care about the new Enduring Story designation. If something has storied, you'll get the Enduring Story if you have control of 3 permanents that are legendary, artifacts, or sagas. Elves are in green and blue, and these are all about landfall, ramping, and accelerating towards late game payoffs. What I want to do in this guide is talk about what you're realistically going to see in a pre-release or a draft, not just the rares. Sure, the rares are good, but what's really important is rares that I wouldn't recommend you taking in a limited environment. And then I also want to talk about the commons and uncommons that I would recommend you take, because you can't always just snap keep off of a rare. Sometimes there's not going to be enough support for it, and sometimes it's just not going to be a great strategy in limited. So we're really focusing on that pre-release sealed vibe today. It shouldn't be a surprise to you that pre-release and sealed are some of my favorite ways to play Magic. That's why I wanted to be an ambassador so badly, so that I could get a chance to look at these cards early and give you an advantage when it's your turn to take the helm. The way that I've sorted these cards is in a rating of 1 to 3, and that rating actually got changed from 0 to 3. I took a look at every single card in the set on a spreadsheet, and I rated it from 0 to 3. 0 is, I'm including it in the highlights of this video. 1 is, I would definitely build around this or really seek to include it in a deck. The rating of 2 is like, I like this, it's good, but you need to make sure you have enough support for it. And the rating of 3 is, I'd use this as a bookmark. Now, some cards that I've rated 3 you might be surprised by, because some of them are like the crazy expensive mythic rares, but this rating is specifically for limited. So I'm saying I would not play this card in my pre-release deck. It's not saying I wouldn't draft it because I want the card. I'm not saying I wouldn't play it in Commander. This is very much a sealed focused video. For this video, I've picked out the signpost uncommons, as well as one other uncommon and a common that I think you should definitely put in your pre-release deck. A signpost uncommon is something that you see in your draft or in your pre-release kit, and you say, yep, that's the strategy I'm gonna go for. Because they're uncommon, so you might get another one, or you might get a couple more. There's likely going to be some good support for it, but it's a really good card with great value that you can build a deck around. A lot of times, this card is going to include the mechanic that is representative of that archetype and color combo. For blue and white humans, my signpost uncommon is Bard the Bowman. This is really representative of the card draw and token making strategy that you've got. Bard the Bowman is a 1/3 human archer. He's legendary for 1, a white and a blue, and reads Reach. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It gains lifelink until end of turn. You are going to be doing a lot of drawing cards. You don't have to worry about it. Trust me, there's literally so much card draw in here. So this is a great signpost uncommon to say, hey, that's the strategy I'm gonna do. For my uncommon, I have Bilbo Luckweaver. For 1 and a blue, this is a 1/1 halfling rogue with an adventure. The adventure is Burglar's Plot. For 4 and a blue, you can exchange control of 2 target non-land permanents that share a card type. This is really interesting. I don't feel like you see too much of that mechanic, but I like it as a theme for Bilbo being the burglar for the Dwarven Company. His main ability is that he can't be blocked, and whenever he does combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card, then discard a card. See, I told you that you'd be drawing plenty of cards. And then a common that you definitely want to pick up in this strategy is the Lakeshore Apothecary. For 1 and a blue, it's a 1/2 human cleric with vigilance that reads, whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. I think that's great. This is a card that's in one of the welcome decks, and I found it was so useful. Whenever I didn't have it out, I wished this was a card I had out. This is a common that I would definitely recommend paying attention to for your sealed pool. Our signpost uncommon for Goblins is Bolg of the North. For 3, a black and a red, it is a 5/5 Goblin Soldier with a cool ability. When Bolg enters, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Bolg deals damage equal to that creature's power to another target creature. If excess damage was dealt this way, amass Goblins X, where X is that excess damage. That's a lot of words. Let's break down what it means. Amassing Goblins X is putting X +1/+1 counters on a Goblin army token that you already control. And if you don't control one, you get to create one and then put them on there. So if you're amassing Goblins 3, you're putting 3 counters on that existing army, or you're making one and putting 3 on that one. This deck is all about sacrificing, so even if you have to give up something of your own, you have the potential to get something really good back with that Amass Goblins X. The other cards in here are going to show how to support that strategy with amassing this Goblin army and not being afraid to sacrifice it. You've got to know when it's worth it and when you want to keep that blocker around. Our uncommon for this is kind of crazy. This is Misty Mountains Raider. It is a bit expensive. It's up at the top end for 4 and a red, but it's a 4/4 Goblin Soldier that says whenever you attack, you amass Goblins 2. It's not just when you attack with this creature, it's whenever you attack at all. Every time you're getting a 2/2, or you're adding 2 +1/+1 counters to an existing army that's just getting larger. I think this is awesome because you are able to keep something around, you can block, you can sacrifice, you can really do what you want with your Goblin army, and you'll still get some back. Our common for this is going to be Goblin Plate Mail. I think this is the one that I picked that's not a creature, but I definitely wanted to highlight some artifact equipments in this because they're so important to this set. So this is 1 and a hybrid red-black mana. It's an equipment that says when this equipment enters, amass Goblins 1, you're sensing a theme, then attach this equipment to the amassed army. Cool. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has menace, equip 4. Now this equip cost is pretty high, so you might want to look out for another way to do that less expensively. This could also fit in the Dwarves deck, but not as well. There are some ways to discount equip costs, but really you want this to be in your Goblins deck. This is really great the first time that it comes onto the battlefield and gets attached to something. It's a little harder after that, but I love that it gives it menace. You've seen so far that we've got a lot of things that are building up this army, making it really big. Giving that menace is going to be really valuable. Anything with evasion is going to be awesome in a 20 life sealed scenario. For the Dwarves, our signpost uncommon is none other but Thorin Oakenshield. For a red and a white, he's a 3/2 Dwarf Noble with Trample and Storied. As a reminder, Storied means if you control 3 or more artifacts, legendaries, and or sagas, you have an enduring story for the rest of the game. Nothing can touch this. You can't take it away. You can't react to getting that. It's not a triggered ability, doesn't go on the stack. As long as you have an enduring story, artifacts and creatures you control have Ward 1. Our uncommon also goes particularly well with this, and I think those two fit together in a way that's actually really unique. I think the rest of this theme goes really well. From looking at it, I would say this is the strongest archetype. I haven't had a chance to play it yet because it's before the set comes out. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking the synergy is really strong between these two cards, but really between all of the dwarf type. Our uncommon for this is crazy. I have no idea how this is an uncommon. Someone tell me, is it not as good as I think it is? No, don't tell me that. This is Dane, Lord of the Iron Hills. For 1 and a white, he's a 2/2 dwarf noble with vigilance and storied. And as long as you have an enduring story, creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. It's not quite stacks, but it's almost. It's just protection because a lot of the dwarf cards are really low power and toughness. And so you need something else to be able to make them last towards the end of the game. I'm not really sure I would say this is an aggressive strategy. Maybe it is. There's some things with first strike. There's not a ton with haste. But I will say it's going to be, I think, reasonable to get an enduring story. I don't think you're going to have to worry too much. You might want to focus on it. You might want to think, do I have enough artifacts, legendaries, and sagas in this deck? But I don't think it's going to be too difficult. So I think this is kind of crazy. And then for a common, we've got Oin the Brave. For 1 and a red, this is a legendary dwarf warrior, 1/3 with storied. All of the ones I picked have this mechanic because, you know, it's the one that's on the sheet. As long as you have an enduring story, Oin gets +1/+0 and has haste. Right? Good. And then for 1 and tap it, you can discard a card and draw a card. I will say, after looking through the set, there's not that much card draw that's not in blue and some white. And there's not that much haste. There's not as many non-creature spells that are really good as I thought. So listen, I'm somebody who traditionally undervalues drawing cards, and that's something that I'm really learning to get over in my 6th year of playing Magic. So I'm telling you, you want to have a good way to be able to draw cards, even if you have to discard cards after that. For the elves, it's not a specific elf, it's just Sylvan Revelers. For 2, a green and a blue, this is a 3/2 elf citizen with when this creature enters, draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard a land card this way, put it from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. It's also got landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you may pay 1, a green and a blue. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. There's a lot of graveyard play in here for something that's not green and black. But it is elves, and that's something that we know kind of goes with other elf strategies. You'll notice that this is if you discard a land card this way. A lot of things give you a benefit for discarding a non-land card, specifically the recruit mechanic and other things in Magic's history. This one, you get a benefit for discarding a land card, and that benefit, you just get the land back. This is awesome. My common for this is Wood Elves. It's a classic. I looked at the whole set of commons and I said, yeah, this one from regular Magic the Gathering is the best one. It's there for a reason. I do like that it's reskinned into the Hobbit. Wood Elves is a 1/1 elf scout for 2 and a green. When this creature enters, search your library for a forest card, put that card on the battlefield and shuffle. In a deck that cares about landfall and having a lot of lands and getting them out quickly, you can't get any better than that. And then I realized I did something super dumb and just straight up did not film part of it. I was nervous and I didn't actually have all the cards in my hand, and so I forgot green and black. Sorry, green and black. It's pretty good in this pre-release. So for our signpost uncommon, we are going to have the Chief Warg, of course. This is a 3/3 wolf for 2, a black and a green. It's got menace and ferocious. Whenever you attack while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Now this ferocious mechanic is really important in the Wolves green-black deck, and it's important to remember that ferocious is just the ability word that's telling you to watch out for a certain condition. It can be a different trigger and it can be a different outcome. For my selected uncommon here, I actually have something that is not a wolf. I've picked Nasty Little Rabbit. This is a 1/2 that you can play for 1 green mana, and it also has ferocious. At the beginning of combat of your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Hopefully you'll be able to get it out right in the beginning, and then you can just power it up and keep it getting bigger as the game goes on. For a common, I've selected Ravening Warg as one that you really want to look out for. My note next to this was just, love this. For 1 and a black, this is a 2/2 with Death Touch and Ferocious. Whenever this creature attacks while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you gain 2 life. Gaining life in a 20 life scenario is really great all the time. I just think that these are really emblematic of the strategy. They both have that particular mechanic, and they're going to be really strong if you manage to get them, and you don't want to ignore them in your pre-release pool. Okay, now I'm Looking down here at my notes instead of the cards, because yeah, sure, I pull all the commons and uncommons. Didn't necessarily get the rares and mythics. Fateful Discovery. This is going to be good in Commander. Well, it might be good in Commander. I would not advise putting this in your blue-white deck or your blue-green deck, because those colors in this draft and pre-release archetype set do not have synergy with artifacts. Sure, there's plenty of artifacts to go around, but those just aren't the colors for that, so I don't think it's worth it to try to like stack it, because if you're playing blue, you're gonna wanna be doing card draw and landfall. That's what you wanna be doing. I also, as cool as it is, would not play Gleaming Splendor. You can make people draw cards, right? Like you can make yourself draw cards, but I don't think it's gonna be triggering the second card thing in blue-white, and it might be good actually in protecting against that deck, but you don't know who you're going up against, and I just don't think it's worth putting it in a card slot if you don't know who you're playing against and you don't know what's gonna happen. I would definitely pick up this card, but I wouldn't put it in my pre-release deck. Uncover the Moonletters. My notes are, you would need too many expensive non-creature spells, and I do fear that you would mill yourself out in a 40 card deck situation, so I would steer clear of this personally, even though I think it's really cool and I would love to use it. Supper for Spiders. This does have artifact stuff going on. You've got the ability to kind of take your opponent's creatures when they die, but it's just a lot of setup and a lot of investment to play in a limited environment, and I would not bother trying because you're going to focus on that and then lose the game in the meantime, which is unfortunate. Another one I wouldn't play is Balan Loremaster. Kind of a similar thing with the blue card. I just fear that you might mill yourself out. You might not have great hands to do this with. You'd have to have a lot of dwarves, and from my experience, building Typal is really hard. You want to be thinking about what colors and what mechanics go together. And there are a lot of dwarves in this set, so you might be okay. But it's just not a guarantee, and I think you'd have to be pretty careful before you included this in your pre-release deck. It's also way up at the top end of the mana curve, and you really want to be making sure that the things that are up there, especially in limited, are so worth your time and your mana that you're using to cast on them. Oh, this one breaks my heart because I think it's so cool. This is Desert Wereworm. Again, I think it's too high mana cost and I think it's too complex. You're likely going to be playing multicolor if you're doing limited. I feel like in constructed, maybe you could put together a monocolor, but for this to work, you really want to be able to have a lot of mountains, and you might just not have that if you have to play red and black or red and white. Additional combat phases also just scream Commander to me. Not that you can't have them here, I think it would be strong, but I would choose something else to do. It's clear that I maybe have a little bit of a bias against high mana cost things and stuff that takes a lot to set up in limited. I do prefer to play aggressive in limited. I think it just works better, at least for me. But again, I am no expert. It's just my opinion. Okay, actually, this is the one that breaks my heart. Last Light of Durin's Day is so freaking cool. This is a thematic win. I have tagged thematic win on a bunch of cards, and this is one of the top ones. There's a lot of things in this set that are so freaking cool, and I just think that if you pour the energy into pulling them off, it's like so Glass Cannon with maybe a 10% chance of working. I really want it to work. Like the Black Arrow. You're not gonna kill the Smaug with that. I mean, I want you to, trust me. I don't. Do I sound too pessimistic? I just don't think it's gonna happen. I'm so sorry. But if I get the chance, you know me, like I will put it in anyway against my own advice because I think the thematic win is so cool. The thing that's really great about this is that you do get to put the dragon on the battlefield, so you don't then also have to pay its mana cost, but you do also have to make sure that you are getting 6 mountains out there, and that might be tough, just period. If the game doesn't go on long enough, if you don't draw right, if you're playing multiple colors, just might be hard. Better for mono red and better for Commander. Through the Forest Gate, very cool. Again, thematic. I don't think you're gonna get there. And if you do, it might not be relevant. There is a lot of value in having something to do with your mana at the end of the game when things slow down a little bit. I really like the super good commons that just are too expensive and that's why they're bad. If something has a really good ability that is strong, synergistic, and you're able to use it a lot, I truly think that's better than something that is really, really powerful, but you just might not be able to get the ability off. And then the last rare that I kind of think you should ignore if you're in a pre-release situation is Thranduil the Elven King. I will admit this is only because it is 3 colors. I didn't see any other 3-color cards in the set. I think this is a fantastic card in Commander. I think playing with the like this is so Sultai, it's so Elves, it's really, really awesome. Why would you make yourself throw an extra black pip in there if you're playing Elves? Now, what I do love about this is it does bridge a gap between the green-blue Elves and the black-green Elves, and that's really cool, but in this set, there's only green-blue Elves, except for this guy. And you don't need to be building that bridge. It's okay. It's fine. How many legendary elves are you gonna have enter the battlefield? That's not that likely.